Hey guys, we are now just 4 days away from deciding who will control the United States Senate, as those two final seats will be decided on the 5th of January, and early voting for the state of Georgia for these runoffs have officially ended, and we can take a look at those numbers in just a moment here. But in addition to that, Jon Ossoff's chances have skyrocketed, overnight, and I mean that literally because I checked those numbers last night and they were not that high for Jon Ossoff, but his chances have increased significantly since, just a couple of hours ago. He is very, very close to becoming the favorite to win, and you saw that Raphael Warnock yesterday already became the favorite to win the Georgia Senate runoff. So Democrats are now expected to win on the betting odds level, which is really something that I did not expect at all, because although Democrats were doing pretty well in the polls for a very long time, people never actually expected them to win, overwhelmingly, but now they do have a majority in the betting odds, so we'll take a look at all of that in just a few moments here. So before we go into that, make sure you join my Discord server if you have not, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. So basically, right now, what I think is troubling the Republicans the most is those $2,000 stimulus checks and how Mitch McConnell is blocking the vote on it. And it could, it's not definitely going to pass. It could pass. It does need 60 votes. So whether or not it's going to pass is still in question, but he's not allowing a vote on it. And these people of Georgia, they want the $2,000 stimulus checks. And David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, they both know that the people of Georgia want it, and they have voted against stimulus checks many, many times in the future. But for this situation, right before their re-election, they have announced that they will be in support of those checks if it goes on the Senate floor, and they have agreed with Donald Trump. Trump wants those $2,000 checks. It's just many of the Senate Republicans, including Mitch McConnell, who's blocking this vote and trying to combine with other things the Democrats would never agree to, creating more loopholes in the tax system, I believe. So the people of Georgia, they're going to realize that, they have already realized that, and this is something that Warnock and Ossoff are campaigning over. If they get these two Democrats elected, they will get their $2,000 stimulus checks. That's something that Ossoff and Warnock have both said very recently, and that I think is going to drive up the turnout for the Democrats even on election night, because with the Republicans in charge, they're never going to get those $2,000 stimulus checks. If we have Chuck Schumer as the majority leader, he may not be the most favored person ever. He's pretty unpopular, but they would be able to get those checks through those $2,000 checks that Mitch McConnell has been blocking for the last couple of days. So that is not going to help them. And with David Perdue, who is facing a pretty tough race against Jon Ossoff, much closer than what most people could have expected for the state of Georgia after Joe Biden's win, David Perdue now is basically not going to be able to campaign for the last days leading up to his re-election. So taking a look at the polls, they have stayed the same from yesterday. There's been absolutely no change, and the polls don't really tell us too much, but Warnock's lead might be a little bit better, but really doesn't tell us that much. It's still within the margin of error. So really don't look at the polls. It's pretty much even at this point in time. The race is going to be very, very close. I mean, on the presidential level, it was decided by 0.24%, less than 12,000 votes, I believe. So this race is going to go down to the wire. I would be pretty surprised if Jon Ossoff did, won by over 1%, or if David Perdue won by over 2%. That would surprise me. So taking a look at the betting odds between Raphael Warnock and Kelly Loeffler, of course, yesterday he did take the lead. He now leads with 56 cents per share, 56% chance of winning, according to the betting odds. He increased off yesterday, where he was at 54, now he's at 56 today, and Kelly Loeffler's numbers have plummeted in the last couple of days, and that could be a result of a multitude of reasons, but essentially the point is that now people believe that Raphael Warnock, for the first time since before the election, this is November 3rd, people now believe that Raphael Warnock is going to defeat Kelly Loeffler in the Georgia Senate special election. Now, for the regular election between Ossoff and Perdue, Perdue has always been doing a little bit better in the betting odds compared to Kelly Loeffler. However, as of right now, his numbers are slipping as well. Jon Ossoff is now at 47 cents per share to David Perdue's 56 cents. Very, very soon, Jon Ossoff could definitely overtake the incumbent senator in the betting odds. I mean, these numbers are getting closer and closer. Off that 44 cents from yesterday, Jon Ossoff has already increased by 3 cents today, with David Perdue decreasing by 2 cents. Their margin has decreased by 5 cents in just one day, and this is going to continue to go like this. I really could see Jon Ossoff overtaking David Perdue for the first time since the 30th of October. So, it's just surprising to see that people now believe that Jon Ossoff really might defeat David Perdue, and his chances, they were at an abysmal 23% at one point, and now he's all the way up at 44%, and this comes after David Perdue is not going to be able to campaign for the next couple of days. So this other betting market, this is essentially what will be their net change in the states by party. So this is no change, which is not going to occur because there's no chance of that occurring, and there's no chance that the GOP gains anything because the Senate map, as you can see, Democrats flipped Colorado and Arizona. They lost 1 seat in Alabama, so they have already gained 1 seat. No matter what happens, they will gain 1 seat. The Senate is already 48-50 because Mark Kelly, since it was a special election, he has already been inaugurated, while John Hickenlooper from Colorado has not, and nor has Tommy Tuberville from Alabama. So currently it's 48-50. Before this, it was 47-53. So Democrats are going to gain a seat no matter what happens, so that's why this is not going to occur. So this right here, Democrats +1, this is basically if the Democrats lose both runoff elections, that's at 42. Democrats +2, that's if they win 1 seat, and that, very, very most likely it's going to be Raphael Warnock's seat. So that's if pretty much if Warnock wins, and Perdue wins, that's going to be 20 cents per share. And if you're betting on both Democrats winning, that is at 2 cents per share. There are only 3 scenarios that are even, possible. So these two, Democrats +1 and Democrats +3, seem to be the two that are the most likely, which is essentially one party wins both races. The least likely seems to be Warnock wins one and Perdue wins the other. So I think that the numbers 4 + 3, they are going up quite a bit. Dems +3, if you take a look at the 90-day graph, it seemed almost impossible at one point. It was at 19 cents per share. Now it's all the way up at 42. So the numbers have increased very, very much for the Democratic Party, and I think that this is very good. It's right before the election, and I think that, of course, with those stimulus checks, I really think, when you have money involved, and it's $2,000 that people across the country really, really need, I think that is going to definitely hurt the Republican Party by quite a bit. I think that even many moderate Republicans, centrist Republicans, that, probably would have voted for Loeffler or Perdue, and they need those checks, so they might really just vote for the Democrats just so they can get those stimulus checks, and they will get more in the future most likely if Democrats control both the Senate, the House, and the presidency. So taking a look at the early voting numbers, we looked at this yesterday and it hasn't changed. It's still at 2.5 million from the 29, so this is a little bit outdated, but what this really shows is that turnout is high. With the exception of the Christmas holiday, turnout has been literally the exact same for the runoff race and the general election. That is just how high the turnout for these two races have been, and I think that's going to benefit the Democratic Party because typically in runoff races, Republicans turn out a lot more than Democrats, but with this high turnout, it shows that Democrats are turning out for this race. So we could very well go to the Democratic Party just because of how many voters are coming out, because like I said, this race is not about flipping voters. Jon Ossoff and David Perdue, they do not need to get voters who voted for the opposite candidate to vote for them this time around. They just need more voters, as much as they can, as many voters as they can that voted for them last time to vote for them again. There are many people who are, tired with politics after the general election who, just don't want to vote, but it seems as if a lot of them are voting. We might even see 80% turnout compared to last time. And right now, and Republicans are concerned, but they do definitely have a lot, they do have a very good chance to make up the ground. So, Stacey Abrams has said that he is, she's pretty optimistic about this. She knows that there's a lot of African American turnout, as you can see, and there have been increases among Latino voters, which is going to benefit the Democratic Party. And that is true. There has been quite a significant increase in terms of the votes from the black population as well as the Latino population in the state of Georgia. It's gone up to 30.8% for the black vote, and previously, according to CNN exit polls, it was 28% in the general election. White 62, the white vote is now 55.8%. The turnout rate, white has overtaken the black vote, but it is a very, very narrow margin right there. 41.1, the black turnout 39.8, which is still pretty high, one of the highest turnouts in basically the entire chart here. So the black and white turnout, I think that is going to be pretty positive for the Democratic Party. You have almost 1 million black voters voting in this election. I think that is definitely going to be very, very good. And also the Hispanic vote is also pretty high, in relative to how many Hispanics typically vote. The age, you see 66 and up continuing to decrease, which is good for the Democratic Party. Of course, they do still have the highest turnout rate. But for those who did not vote in the 2020 general election, these are younger voters, a lot of them Democrats, because that's what the Democrats have been doing. They've been getting a lot of voters who did not vote last time to vote for them this time. And a lot of them are young voters, just turned 18, and they will vote overwhelmingly for the Democratic Party. So I'm not saying the Democrats are going to win. It's really, at this point, it depends on it depends on the turnout that we see on election night. I think that if the turnout is pretty low, and with 3 million votes already cast, just over 3 million for the early vote, which early voting has already ended, Democrats will win. Unless turnout is very, very high, I don't see Republicans flipping, what the results are right now, which is Democrats. There is no doubt in my mind that the Democrats are winning in terms of the early vote. We have 38.8% turnout, 3,001,017 votes already cast. That is very, very high, and most of them are from Democratic counties. You see the average turnout is 38.8% statewide. If you go to Fulton County, that is the largest county, a very Democratic county as well, 41.8% turnout. So that's higher, but this is the largest county, so that 41% is much higher than, 41 from Evans County. And then if you take a look at DeKalb County, you have 45.5% turnout. This district right here, this county right here, DeKalb County, this district voted 81% for the Democratic Party. If you take a look at the numbers right there, 81.2% for John Ossoff. And this county has amazing turnout numbers for this race. 45.5% to 38.8% average. This is a lot of voters. Already 263,000. There's going to be more on election day. So the turnout numbers definitely favor the Democratic Party. If you compare this to the 2020 election, and the turnout for the early vote was 4.013 million. So it's about 1 million higher, and that is really from the deficit that came as a result of the Christmas holiday. Turnout came right back up after that, but really Christmas did decrease the turnout by quite a bit. It was 57.3%, and that 4 million already destroyed the previous turnout record of 3.9 million. So in 2008, 3.9 million people in the state of Georgia voted, and that was a record. In 2020, 4.9 million total. So 4 million, just for the early voting in Georgia before election day voting was pretty significant. So 900,000 people voted on election day in the state of Georgia. I think that my numbers were definitely a little bit lower. I predicted 3.35 million, I believe. So it's going to be higher. I think 3.5 to 3.7 is the most likely. It's not going to be 3.9 million. I very heavily doubt that. But the turnout, 57.3% statewide. If you take a look at these counties that we just took a look at, DeKalb County was 60.8, which is pretty significantly, the margin between those two is pretty significantly smaller than between the DeKalb County numbers right now and the early voting number and the average for the state of Georgia as of right now. Fulton County, as you can see, 57.9, just very, very barely higher. So the turnout from these Democratic counties are much better right now compared to what they were for the general election, and I think that is very, very positive for the Democratic Party. Okay, we already took a look at that, but the district numbers by congressional district, what we saw, I went through all this yesterday if you want to watch that. basically the Democratic counties, they are 4, 5, 6, 7, 13, and 2. These are the counties that voted Democratic. If you take a look at the House map, you'll see, as you can see, so you have 6, 5, 6, 4, 13, and 7, as well as 2. So if we were to use the turnout here, so basically all those counties near Atlanta right there, and the, not counties, the districts, and then the second district, we have Columbus and Macon. So taking a look at this, 4, 5, 6, 7, 81%, 80%, 75, 74. That is much higher than many other counties, especially the 4th and 5th. And these are, two of the largest counties. 5th is the largest, not county, I'm sorry, I keep saying county, but I mean district. The 5th district is 626,000 people registered, so it really is a lot of voters. The second largest district would be the 13th district, followed by the 4th district. So the 13th district, another Democratic district, 78.9% turnout. Much higher than these other ones. 75, 73, 74. And you have the 5th district at 80, 81. And the 14th district is at, 69.1% turnout. So turnout by congressional district heavily favors the Democratic Party, and I think that's going to help them a lot in this race. So really at this point in time, what I think about these races is I think that both parties can definitely win. Definitely, I'm not ruling out the Republican Party. David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, they can definitely win. It's really hard to make a prediction, but I will be making one in the coming days. But really, it's really just about the election day turnout at this point in time, because with these numbers, they're very positive for the Democratic Party, these early voting statistics. I will come out with a lot more detail on these early voting numbers tomorrow, just like you did a couple days ago, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But at this point, it's just about how many people can turn out for David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler on election night. And I think that unless turnout is very high, Democrats have these two races, but we'll see what happens on the 5th. So make sure you join my Discord server if you have not, to be very updated on these two races. Like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below who you guys think are going to win these races and why. And I am using this larger cursor, so tell me if you guys like that. So you guys can see it a little better. I got some comments saying the cursor was too small, so I'm going with this a little bit larger one. So yeah, subscribe to my channel if you have not, and I will see you guys in the next video.